Have you ever felt ignored by God? Have you looked at the news, the streets, or even your own life and wondered why evil seems to prevail so easily? Why do the corrupt so often prosper while the righteous suffer in silence? Why does violence increase, faith seem to weaken, and God, at least to our weary eyes, appear to remain silent? If these questions have ever crossed your heart, know this: you are not alone. Throughout history, many men and women of faith have wrestled with the same anguish. And there was one man who dared to do what many only think about in silence. He stood before God not as an accuser, but as a wounded and troubled son, seeking to understand what seemed incomprehensible. His name is Habakkuk. Unlike other prophets, Habakkuk does not begin by speaking to the people. He begins by speaking to God. His book does not open with a proclamation, but with a cry. It is the record of a sincere heart laid bare before the Lord. From this dialogue between the prophet and the Creator emerges one of the most profound, honest, and transformative texts in all of Scripture. It is a real conversation without masks, one that begins with hard questions, moves through unsettling revelations, and ends in mature, quiet, reverent praise. This is not merely an ancient story, it is a living one. It is the story of everyone who loves God, yet suffers when injustice seems to triumph. It is the story of the tension between faith and reason, of the pain of believing in a just God while struggling to understand His ways. Habakkuk teaches us that it is not a sin to ask questions, that true faith can bear sincere doubts, and that God, even when He seems silent, remains present, attentive, and sovereign. Habakkuk lived in Judah, likely near the end of the 7th century before Christ, during a dark period in the history of God's people. The nation had turned away from the law, violence had spread, injustice ruled the courts, and the poor were crushed by corruption. The prophet looks around and cannot understand how God allows such things to continue, and so he cries out, "How long, O Lord, shall I cry for help, and you will not hear?" That cry still echoes in many of our hearts today. Who has never prayed through tears and received only silence in return? Who has never felt forgotten, even while believing? Yet Habakkuk's cry does not come from rebellion, it comes from faith. He is not rejecting God, he is fighting to keep believing. He speaks like a wounded child who still trusts the character of his Father. But before we begin this journey, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who also needs to hear this message. Your support is essential so that we can continue producing biblical content with depth and truth. Now, take a deep breath, open your heart, and come with me as we discover the story of the prophet who transformed doubt into praise. Habakkuk denounces violence, oppression, and injustice because he loves the justice of God. He cannot accept the triumph of evil because he believes deeply that the Lord is holy. His prayer is not cold or rehearsed. He pours out his soul. He persists. He cries out. And God does not rebuke him for it. God answers. But the answer does not come in the way the prophet expected. The Lord reveals that he is indeed at work, but in a way that defies human logic. God would raise up the Chaldeans, a violent and pagan people, as an instrument of judgment against Judah. The revelation strikes like a shockwave. Habakkuk hoped for correction, but receives an announcement of judgment. He expected relief, but instead is given a heavier burden to carry. How can a holy God use a people so wicked? This question tears at the prophet's heart. He acknowledges the sovereignty of the Lord, but struggles to understand his ways. Here we learn something profound. God reigns even over the cruelest empires. He does not approve of evil, but he governs it. Nothing escapes his control. In response, Habakkuk does something remarkable. He chooses to wait. He climbs the watchtower and remains there. He watches. He waits. He does not run. He does not abandon the faith. Waiting here is not passivity. It is a courageous act of trust. And God speaks again, now not only about the present, but about the meaning of history itself. The righteous shall live by his faith. This word has echoed through the centuries. It sustained God's people in times of crisis, shaped the faith of the church, and remains a living call to us today. While pride collapses and evil moves toward judgment, the righteous are called to live by faith. Finally, God closes the vision with a declaration that quiets the prophet's heart. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. This is not the silence of abandonment, but of reverence. It is the silence of one who understands that God reigns. Habakkuk does not receive every answer he wanted, but he receives something greater, the certainty of the Lord's sovereignty. And that is enough. The prophet who began by crying out now grows still, and from that silence, praise is born. In the final chapter, Habakkuk sings, not because the pain has vanished, but because his vision has been transformed. He learns to trust even when everything trembles. His faith matures. His hope deepens. This is the journey of Habakkuk, from doubt to faith, from crying out to worship, from anguish to adoration. And this can be our journey as well. When we do not understand, we can wait. When it hurts, we can trust. When God seems silent, we can remember he reigns. Like, comment, and share to help the channel. Soli Deo Gloria.